Welcome to the 17-18 school year. I hope you're off to a great start. We've made several changes over the summer for 5th grade science, and one of those big changes is how you're going to access information. So all information will be available through this K6 science page, and I'm going to kind of walk you through where you can find some of the important information. So there's two places where you'll be clicking into. One is in the 5th grade tab and one is FOSS. So we're going to start with our FOSS tab. Much of the information that's available here is what was previously available on Portal or through Filer. You'll find your living materials order forms through this tab. Please make sure that anytime that you're trying to download a document or to click into a document on this page that you're logged into your district Google account. If you receive a message that tells you that you don't have access, please do not request access, but go back in and make sure that you're logged into your district Google account. On your living materials, please make sure that you're ordering at least 2 weeks in advance. For 5th grade, they're not really living because it's the owl pellets, but please make sure you're giving us at least 2 weeks because we do have to order those. For kits, in 5th grade, you do not order your kits. They come on a rotation to you, and you can see what the rotation is. And the rotation was based on the number of teachers on campus. If there were 1 to 2 teachers on the campus, then 2 kits are sent in the fall and 2 kits are sent in the spring. If there's 3 to 4 or more teachers that teach science on your campus, then 1 of each kit was sent to your campus in August, and they'll be kept on your campus until May. There's a couple of reasons why we're doing this. On a couple of our titles, we actually have a very limited number of kits, and we want to make sure that everyone has access to the curriculum materials during the school year. The other reason is because we have limited manpower in the Science Center to be able to receive inventory, restock, and then send those kits back out. When we were sending them out on a quarterly basis, teachers lost about 8 weeks of instructional time as the kits were moving back and forth from the Science Center. With this new way that we're doing our rotation, the maximum amount of time that's lost for our instruction is 3 weeks for the teachers that have 1 to 2 teachers on their campus. So we're trying to keep those materials in your hands and with your students for as much time as possible. This curriculum materials page takes you to some work that was done by previous teachers. You'll find pacing guides, correlations between the state standards and the investigations. You'll also find the handouts that can be printed out. These handouts are also available in the digital print shop. If you're not sure how to order those, please contact the secretary on your campus and they can help you out with that. They are free of charge, and you can order them as either half sheets or full sheets. This last link under FOSS is for FOSSWeb, and this is where you'll find your premium access codes for the kits that we have available in 5th grade. The really nice thing about this is that you have access to all the electronic teacher guides, so if you want to be able to plan ahead, you can do that. The other place that you'll be able to find information regarding 5th grade science is on this 5th grade tab. And in here you'll find links to standards documents. These 3 documents show the state standards for science in 5th grade in a couple of different ways and formats. So those are all accessible to you. These progression charts where I've taken the strands and I've put them into context of where your students should be coming to you from, what they should be learning in your class, and then what they were doing the next year after that. It helps you to understand for your expectations of what they should be able to do when they get to you. And then if you've got that really advanced kid who's trying to push forward, you have an idea of where you're trying to push them to. And you'll see that's available for all the strands. Under assessments, this is where the major change was made this summer, was to assessments. Teachers looked through the item analysis for all the different tests, and then they created this document for you that tells you the areas on each test where students struggled, and then some suggestions for how you could do some instructional practices or content in particular of things that you could do to help students with those concepts. And this is for all 4 of the assessments. And then some other ideas for you of things that you can do with the different standards. In this window, you're going to see what your assessment windows are. There is a pre-test, which is new this year, that's called a gap analysis test. This is a low-level test that assesses students on the previous year's knowledge, on what they should know coming out of 4th grade into 5th grade, so that there are gaps in their understanding in Strand 1 in particular, that you know right away where it is that you need to build some understanding with your students and to kind of close that gap before you start teaching them 5th grade stuff. So you'll see that one's during the first month of school. This particular assessment is not appropriate for an SLO goal. There is no post-test that goes with it, and it's assessing students at the 4th grade level, not the 5th grade level, so it is not appropriate for use with an SLO goal. We do have some suggestions later on, if you need some, about what you can do for an SLO goal. You'll see that the assessments are available right around the quarter break, so usually about a week before the quarter break and 2 weeks after the quarter break. Once again, you can give them in any order because it's based on the order that you got your kits in. There are pre-tests that go along with all of these post-tests. They are a different set of questions, and so the pre-tests are low-level security, so you can see the item analysis for that. The post assessments are high-level security, so you'll just be able to see the standards analysis and your student scores. The assessments have been renamed to more closely align with the standards that they're actually teaching, that they're about, as opposed to the name of the kit. And so in this window over here on the side, you'll see what the old name of the assessment was and what the new name of the assessment is. For each of our assessments, the teachers provided study guides. They created study guides that went along with that particular assessment. Once again, please make sure that you're logged into your Google account on here. Don't send a message asking for access. Now on these ones, because you could provide these to your students electronically if you have access to computers in your classroom, but if you're going to do that, please make a copy of the Google Doc, put it into your drive, and then share that one with your students. Please do not share this version of it from the website. And the reason for that is if your kids don't log into their Google Docs and they set a request for permission, it's going to get sent to the person who actually made the one that's posted here. And they're not going to know who that kid is, and they're going to get a million emails. So please make sure that whenever you're sharing a Google Doc with your students, that it's one of your Google Docs, that you've made a copy of it to provide for them. In the district assessment blueprint, you'll be able to see a breakdown for each assessment and how many questions per standard are on that blueprint. And then the last thing that you're going to find here are scoring rubrics. One of the big changes with our assessments is that there are 20 questions on each of the 4 assessments that are based on the 4 different kits. There are 19 multiple choice questions and 1 constructed response question. And on this page, you're going to find the scoring rubric that goes along with that particular constructed response question, so that you're not guessing about how many points they should have. There are directions in here for you about what the information is and what they should know. Please do not give them the questions ahead of time. We want to make sure that we're seeing what they know on that particular assessment. For these 4 tests, there is an assessment window, which is 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks are the real assessment window. The 3rd week is the makeup week. And then the test will be open for 1 week past that makeup week for scoring. One last thing that I do want to point out is well, actually 2 things that I want to point out. One is that most of the things that I've talked about today are listed on this Back to School Updates tab. You'll see there's a Google Doc in there that kind of goes through all the different things I've talked about. One thing that I do want to bring up is about a safety contract. There are some samples that are listed on that page, but you're not required to use one of those if you have a different safety agreement that you already use with your students, but you must have some sort of safety agreement with your students. You need to have a conversation with them prior to any investigations where you talk about what appropriate behavior is while you're doing an investigation, how you plan on keeping the students and the material safe, and then you need to have some written documentation that the students took part in that. It could be one of those contracts, it could be your own contract, it could be a safety pledge that you have up on the wall, but you need to have something in writing. There's 2 reasons for that. One, students tend to take it a little bit more seriously when they've actually had to sign something. They're like, oh, my teacher really means business with this. And the other reason is for your liability. in the unfortunate event if something did happen, we do want to make sure that we have documentation that that the teachers had a conversation with their students regarding safety. You'll just throw those into a box and just keep them. We've been told by our safety people that we need to keep them for about 7 years. The last tab on here is the SLO goals. I want to say as many times as I can that these are optional. These are not required. We've had some requests in the past for, especially for singleton teachers, that they don't have anyone to do anything in common with. They really want to do something in science. What can they do? This is an option. So what you'll see is a goal that is based off of analysis and conclusion. We give an example of what that goal could look like, and how you could break down, based off of the rubric, how you could break down that tiered performance. You would need to determine your own action steps. How will you help students to increase their mastery in analyzing and drawing conclusions? That part would be up to you. But there are there's a pre, a mid, a practice, and a post, along with the scoring rubric and some sample answers that could go with that, as well as a suggested or a sample pacing. Once again, these are optional, but it does give those singletons, if you need something to have a common assessment, it does give you something that's in common with other people in the district. If you have questions regarding your curriculum or about the SLO goals or anything else that I've talked about here today, please make sure that you contact me. My contact information is here on the front page. Email is usually best because I'm not always at my desk. But please do contact me if you have questions. And I hope you have a great school year.